Hey everybody, real quick before this episode gets going, just wanted to thank everybody. It's the 50th episode of Four Tire Change Course, going back to year one, now into season two. We've done 50 of these things, so thank to everybody who's gotten involved with us, and we're going to keep rolling. Season's long, and we're just getting started. Thanks again.
Start your engine! Take a pit stop for all things NASCAR with the Four Tire Change podcast. Here is your host, Dawson Iserloh.
It's ESPN Southwest Louisiana, the Four Tire Change podcast. Dawson Iserloh back with you after the Easter break. Hope everybody had a great week. The 1 week off in the NASCAR Cup Series season, and it means it's full swing for the rest of the year. Non-stop. There are 0 race weekends off for the rest of the season. It's the longest stretch in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series with races on every single weekend. So drivers, teams, fans, everybody had their rest, and now it's full steam ahead. And I do want to go back because Bristol was almost 2 weeks ago, but a lot of things happened in that race that were somewhat unsettling. It's almost, you always want to have, I guess, good momentum going into a break. And so just as fans of the sport and, podcaster myself, kind of a bad taste in our mouth for the break because the Bristol race, in my opinion, was just unacceptable. And, the quality of racing I didn't think was there. We've battled this thing with the short track package for so long now. But, look, we're going to talk about that. We're going to preview Talladega. We're going to get it all done. So continue to like, comment, subscribe. Let's kind of get this thing rolling again. I'm excited about it. It's going to be full steam ahead, a lot of content. I should be attending a race in person in the next couple of weeks. Very excited about that. Give you more information when it gets a little bit closer and should have some good content for you there as well. But let's start with what happened at Bristol. Kyle Larson dominates the race. I think we all saw that. It wasn't close. He was out front. A lot of conversation about the tire compound. We thought maybe Goodyear had figured some things out. Now we're thinking maybe they didn't. It's really difficult and it's frustrating. And, I go back, I had a conversation with Bob Pockris of Fox Sports in my preview episode of the first ever podcast I did on this channel. And we talked about it. And Bob basically said, hey, they're taking a swing at this, new rules package. And this was before last year. And he's like, they just don't really know what they need to do. Fast forward, they've kind of shuffled some of those things out. They've gone and they've said, you know what, tires are the key. And we saw that at Bristol kind of by accident, and now they've tried to follow it up. And now they talk about, well, the temperatures were off and they couldn't figure it out. It's just frustrating. And here's what I think is the real problem for NASCAR. Bristol Motor Speedway used to be sold out. It was sold out for 20-something consecutive years. You used to have a wait list to try and get tickets to Bristol. And it maybe was half full, maybe half the other night. That's a problem. And so, they've got to figure this out. They've got to make short tracks are part of what NASCAR was built on, and it just can't be like this moving forward. So that was frustrating. And, look, credit to Kyle Larson, the 5 team. If you want to have a championship conversation about who the contenders are, that's certainly fair. I do think you come out of that going, hey, Kyle Larson, I still have some hope that Christopher Bell's going to figure this thing out. William Byron's had a great start to the season, but all in all, I'm really interested to kind of look at this part of the year here and see, now that we're going to get into this long stretch and we're going to get kind of into the dog days of summer, right, where these teams have to show up week in, week out. There's less time in between. It's all about, packing up, moving to the next location and bringing a fast race car. I do think we're going to have a year where we're going to see teams stack up multiple wins. I think you could see Larson get to 6-7 wins. I think you could see, maybe whether it's Tyler Reddick or, maybe Blaney gets into the mix. Somebody's going to stack up multiple wins, and I don't think we're going to have 14, 15 different winners like we've had in the last few years. The other big news of the week that I did want to address is that NASCAR has announced the 2026 championship will be held at Homestead, Miami. Can we get a round of applause for NASCAR? I'm very excited about this. I've been talking about it for a while. I think we had this conversation on the podcast before. I think Phoenix has a place. I think it's cool. It's a unique track. It doesn't always provide the best racing, but I understand it. They've also built a bunch of infrastructure there to host big-time events. So I don't have any problem with it being in the rotation, but I don't think it should be the championship every year. And I honestly, I don't think there should be one singular track that hosts a championship every year, because I think that gives an advantage and it kind of, waters down the ability of different dynamic winners to emerge, especially when you have a format where everything's decided at one track at the end of the season. Homestead's put on great racing. They're going back there. I think this is awesome. It's been one of those that we've been clamoring for it for years, and for once, it feels like NASCAR listened. They did say, hey, they're also going to figure out the rest of the championship moving forward. After that, they're not going to rush into a decision, and I'm fine with that as well. Like, and if it goes back, if it's Phoenix and Homestead that rotate for a few years, that's a start. Like, that's better than just going out Phoenix every season. So, really, really amped up. Of course, this year's championship is still at Phoenix. This is next year's we're talking about. The 2026 season will be back at Homestead for all three major series, and I'm juiced up about it. The other thing that happened in the break is we went back to Rockingham. And this is cool, man. And the Cup Series didn't go. We'll see. I know they probably have to do some more work as far as getting that place Cup ready. Same thing with North Wilkesboro that we've talked about, and they had the All-Star race, which is a great step. I'm all about it. Another thing, I have to give NASCAR some credit. When I do criticize, and I criticize the short track package and some of the decisions they've made, going back to places like North Wilkesboro and Rockingham, I think is awesome. And I give them all the credit in the world for doing it and pulling it off. So it was cool to see the Xfinity cars and the trucks out there. I thought the racing, was good enough to examine going back again in the future. I think it's going to continue being that. And also, even if the racing doesn't provide like wall-to-wall amazing action, the nostalgia purposes, I think it's worth examining how can we make sure we're going to these places. If not every year, then every couple of years. Let's make sure it's a thing. So I was all about it. That was really, really cool. From there, we move on to Talladega. And, hey, if there was ever a good week to have a Talladega race, I think it's this one when we've talked about everything we just did with Bristol and the quality maybe lacking. I'm excited for it. We know fuel mileage and fuel savings. Everything we deal with at the super speedways is back in play here for Talladega, but it's also Talladega. I mean, it's awesome, and the speed and everything. The week leading up to it, of course, the boulevard, everything. It is going to be cool. It's going to be fun, and I'm ready for it. You talk about some of these winners, man. Winning this race, especially if what I said earlier is true, and I feel like it's going to be difficult for us to see as many surprise winners throughout the season. Your opportunities are a little bit fewer and farther in between. So if you're one of those teams right now that feels like it's going to be tough, if you're one of those cars at Spire, who, by the way, have shown really great speed and other, really good runs for Carson Hocevar, Justin Haley, they've been solid, Michael McDowell. Can you find a way? And can you break through and win this? Of course, Michael McDowell will be looking at a guy like Bubba Wallace, who's having a good season on points right now. He's very good at these tracks. Can he break through? I'm fascinated to kind of watch how that's going to play out. I'm going with Bubba Wallace as my race winner, too. I just feel like, look, he's been so good at Talladega in the past. That 23 team, it hasn't been a perfect year so far, but it's certainly been a better start than some of the previous seasons he's had. That 23-11 team is still, in the growing phases. We've seen what Reddick's been doing. I like that 23 crew, so maybe he gets a little bit of luck on his side. Maybe he's there at the end. I like Bubba at Talladega. But all in all, I'm just excited to hopefully get a good, fast-paced, quality race. I hope it's entertaining for the fans' sake after the last couple weeks kind of being down and then the off week. But all in all, it should be fun. So appreciate the support here. Let's get this thing back rolling. We're going to be here from now until the end of the season, man, pumping these out just about every week with maybe one or two exceptions, but pretty much going to have weekly episodes covering everything in the NASCAR Cup Series. That'll do it for Four Tire Change. D'Lo signing out here, but continue to like, comment, subscribe. It's ESPN Southwest Louisiana. We're rolling out.